I'm Emily.
And I'm Kayla.
And we just want to talk movies. We are on episode 8. It should be episode 9, but it is episode 8 now because, as you
Unfortunately,
all know,
I made an oopsie.
Well,
there were a lot of technical difficulties. You guys are blessed because the audio for the lost episode that we recorded was kind of bad, really bad anyway. And I'm gonna insert right now the tiniest clip that we got from the episode of me explaining why the audio sucked so bad. And it also explains why there were so many technical difficulties last week.
I need to address the elephant in the room first. My audio sounds like a hot steaming pile of garbage because my laptop charger broke and then my laptop promptly died. And so I had to order a new laptop charger. However, I have to get a US version or it won't work. So I had to order the laptop charger from the US, and that takes forever to get to the UK, which is where I am. And so I'm not gonna have a laptop for like maybe another week. So I am recording this on my phone with my earbuds. So that's why I sound like Dookie. Everyone ignore that for now.
I don't know how to work GarageBand on my phone, and it kind of sucks on the phone anyway. So I made the grave error of basically deleting all of my audio. Emily's audio is salvageable. So if anyone really wants to hear a one-sided conversation about Final Destination Bloodlines, let us know and I'll post Emily's audio.
it would just be me making all my jokes and then no one laughing at them.
Yeah. And then just,
Yep. It would be really awkward.
It would be great.
But,
we had a great time reviewing it. I'm really sad that we couldn't post it.
It was very funny.
Yeah, these things do happen. But I'll never forgive myself. Anyway.
No, Kayla's technology has been battling her tooth and nail ever since she went overseas.
Yeah, it's not easy to record a podcast when you're literally in different countries. You're literally in different countries.
Literally. Just know that it was a very funny episode, and you guys missed out. I had a really funny penny monologue.
We talked about the penny. It was
yeah.
the penny. The friends we made along the way was the penny along the way. But basically, our review was that the movie was okay. I think we both gave it like half scores. It was half bad, half good.
Yeah.
Definitely my least favorite in the franchise. Maybe I like it a little bit more than 4, but I'm not sure yet because it's too new. It still was not an awful horror sequel by any means. And we did enjoy the last lines that Tony Todd gave because they choked us both up. And it was a great send-off.
Yes. Even though what they did with this character was really a baffling choice.
Kind of weird, yeah.
At the very least. His performance, of course, was still immaculate. Yeah, and then pennies.
Yeah, pennies came back big.
I just heard something that they're discontinuing the penny. Like the other day, they're just gonna stop printing the penny or something.
I haven't seen a penny in real life since I've been in the UK.
Oh, that's true. I don't know, maybe Final Destination finally ended pennies and we're all scared of them. I don't know.
That was the reason.
I don't think I have any news.
Yeah, I had news that I went over last episode, but now it's kind of out of date.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So, I talked about the Sunrise on the Reaping castings in the last episode, that the episode lost forever. And I talked about how they cast Voldemort as Snow. Well, we did get 2 new updates that I'm excited about. We now know that Elle Fanning is playing Effie, and we now know that Kieran Culkin is playing Caesar Flickerman. And I'm really excited for Elle Fanning. I'm tentatively excited for Kieran Culkin because I do feel like his style of comedy is not Caesar Flickerman's style, but I do feel like he could do it. He could do it if he wanted to. So I'm excited to see what he does with the character.
Today, our episode, we are going to be discussing queer cinema, and I'm so excited because by the time you guys are listening to this, Pride Month has begun, and thus we are kicking off the celebration by celebrating our favorite queer-centered films or representation in films or queer coding in films.
There's plenty of that to go around.
There's plenty. That's like 90% of film.
Yeah.
Did you have a place you wanted to start?
I was thinking we go chronological. I put Frankenstein on my list.
That's a great one.
First of all, I mean, it's where a lot of horror began. It's where sci-fi began. And you know what? Sci-fi was created by a 19-year-old bisexual woman. And so that just shows you that the gays have been here since the very beginning. A lot of people, I just read this too, because I was going through like a Wikipedia article on like the history of queer cinema. And some scholars have like compared the Frankenstein story to being transgender, and like the whole like operating on the body part of it all being like the medical transition, and then like not fitting into society, being viewed as a monster after and before, which was an interesting way to view it, and I think that's cool. But also just I mean, being viewed as a monster in society in general is very queer coded. So Frankenstein is one of the greats, and it's one of the first gays, and I love it.
And then Bride of Frankenstein as well is even more so if you think about it. I think the new character in that movie, Dr. Pretorius, is pretty much
confirmed
an openly gay character.
I love him. I forgot about him.
We love Dr. Pretorius. And then I've heard that too, the concept of it just being a trans story at heart, I think, is definitely, in this day and age, very fitting to discuss.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing a lot of that discussion of people being viewed as dangerous or something that needs to be taken care of, erased.
Chased out with pitchforks, literally.
Exactly. Burned to the ground, which has not gone away, unfortunately, in all these years.
I also put Dracula. I know I'm focusing a lot on horror.
No, I have a lot of. I mean, horror is where a lot of it is. That's where most of it lies,
especially in the early days, because you couldn't be as like straightforward about it. But I put Dracula just because, mostly because of the book, but also it's in the movie as well. Dracula was written by a gay man, and it was kind of in response to Oscar Wilde being put in prison for being gay. And so it's kind of like that fear of, you know, you're repressing everything. It takes place. It doesn't take place in the Victorian era. It takes place in one of those old times where you have to repress everything. The book, at least, not the movie. But
yeah.
I mean, I guess the same could be said about the 30s, because we were just off the Roaring 20s, and everyone was suddenly like, the Great Depression. We have to repress everything. So it's just baked into the DNA of Dracula and vampires in general, and also the Jonathan Harker and Dracula of it all, which they did cut out of the movie, but I mean it's still there.
You have Renfield in the movie.
Yeah, he takes the place, and it's basically the same concept. He views him as a master. Like, they even go further with it if you wanna really look at that. Dracula's on there for sure. Those are my only like early ones that I have.
I mean, I guess something kind of worth mentioning also is Cat People.
That
whole movie is basically everything to do with sexuality and female sexuality in particular, which is a crazy concept for the 40s. But you also do get that bit of the main character, because it's all about her repressed desires and everything. The scene where she is going after and kind of like terrorizing this woman who essentially is like a rival to the affections of the man she wants. You do get the sense that she also maybe is repressing a desire for her as well. especially with just all the symbolism in that scene. The woman, like, obviously in a vulnerable position, she's in the pool, and there's, like, the cat just stalking around her slowly, and then when she's, like, running away and there's something chasing her, and there's just, like, this undertone of, at the base of the story, it's she wants to scare her and maybe kill her because then get her out of the way so she can get her man. But there's also just this, well, does she also kind of feel something for her? Because the whole concept of her turning into a cat is because of her desire, her sexual desire. So the cat running around this woman is like, well, what does that mean then? You know?
Well,
so that was one. Mean? Yeah. well, wait a minute here. Let's go back.
What about Victim from 1961, is it?
Yes. Oh.
That's where it's like more clear.
Yeah. I mean, all but stating like the words gay and homosexual or whatever, they openly state that the main character and hero person you are supposed to root for in the film is a gay man, which 1961 is a crazy concept. And this was a British film as well, which, I mean, I don't know much about British film during that time, but I do know, like, during the 70s and 80s, they were getting kind of restrictive.
Oh, interesting. Because that's, like, the opposite of the U.S.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure about, like, stuff like that, but I know with violence, the 70s and 80s, they were really cracking down on banning films and everything. But I don't really know about this time. I mean, the 60s were a time when things were changing drastically, just in society, but in film as well. And this is a really good example of just, like, a huge leap in cinema and representation, and the fact that the main character was played by an actor who was gay in real life as well, and pretty much I think his career just tanked after this movie came out, because everyone's like, oh, we don't want to hire someone who played a gay man. That was unfortunate, but still just a really important film where in still this time when I think it was still, I mean, yeah, the US and Britain, it was still illegal technically to be gay, I'm pretty sure. And to just straight up have a film where homophobes are the villains and a gay person is the hero and there's also just a lot of sympathy with all the gay characters, really, and what they go through with the blackmail and everything, which was a very real thing that happened to people. And just a film so openly talking about it and saying, this is horrible, look at what's happening. Yeah. It's endlessly impressive to me. I love that movie a lot.
Yeah, it was really good. And was that post-Hays, or I guess, did the Hays Code affect the UK?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it was just an American thing.
Seems like a very American thing.
Yeah. Yeah, because then you had, like, French films and everything, which...
Yeah.
They didn't care.
That was what Hedy Lamarr, who became, like, a big actress, I want to say, like, the 50s and 60s. The first thing that she was known for, she was from Austria, and I think it was an Austrian film. If not, it was somewhere else in Europe. She was a teenager. She was not of age, but I think she was naked in it, and it was very sexual. And that kind of made people view her as, like, the vixen type person. She kind of was cast in all of those roles. I think some of that was because that was where she first started. And it was interesting. The U.S., we didn't like films like that back then. Anyone with naked, I mean, I don't think I would like it today because it's a child, but still.
Yeah. I mean, they had it in Romeo and Juliet, where Olivia Hussey was naked. I think she was like 15 or even
Didn't
younger,
they
maybe?
sue recently, the actors?
There was some kind of drama going on, but
yeah, that was crazy.
Weird.
Luckily, when I watched that in school, my teacher skipped past the nudity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she wasn't going to, because I remember she, like, warned us before the movie started. She's like, there's going to be some nudity, don't laugh, or something like that. But then she ended up just walking up and skipping over it.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of weird that they were so underage.
Yeah.
Like, just... not necessary to show.
I have something from the 70s. 'Tis the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I was just gonna say, I think I know what it is.
I love this movie. It's so fun. And it's so ahead of its time because even though Dr. Frankenfurter is the villain of the movie, they are still very much a sympathetic character. And I remember I was watching it with some friends, and we were all really moved by this one line that I think it's in one of the songs where like they're like talking about seeing these pretty like silent movie, or not even silent movie, because they were talking about who is she from King Kong.
Fay Wray?
Fay Wray, yeah. He's singing about Fay Wray and how like they always looked at the pretty ladies on the screen and wanted to be one of them. And we were all like, oh my gosh, that's so it just touched all of us. And so it felt like there was genuine sympathy towards this character, even though, and like, they love Rocky so much, they're obsessed with him, and that's sort of treated sympathetically too, even though they're obviously crazy. So it's kind of very Lestat-coded of him, I have to say. But I just loved it, and it was very fun. It's a musical, what more could you want? And Tim Curry's in it, what more could you want? As the villain, who is also amazing. Tim Curry looks amazing in drag, might I say.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's obviously a classic. Everyone knows it. Everyone loves it.
And widely, even when it came out, I'm pretty sure just widely praised, loved. They still have like the drag show that is the Rocky Horror Show. So It is a huge cultural impact. And yeah, it's like at the time, people were just like, I'm down with it, you know?
I think because it was so camp and out there, it made you already sort of like leave behind all of your biases and preconceived notion. You're here now, and this is what we're giving you. And you either have fun or you don't get it. And most people had fun, so it did its job.
Yep. I don't think I have anything. We could talk about Carrie. Because there is some stuff there. I think it was, from what I hear, there was more in the books that hinted at stuff. But I am not sure because I have not read it.
I read it long ago and probably was too young to pick up on it if there was. Oh.
Well, I mean, the opening scene right off the bat, when you see all these naked ladies in the shower, who I'm fairly certain the actresses were all of age, so it is not it's not a Romeo and Juliet situation. But it seems to be very heavily implied that Carrie is doing stuff in the shower to herself when she gets her period, hence why she's so freaked out when it happens, because pretty much all her life her mother probably told her, if you ever masturbate or if you ever have thoughts about women, you are gonna be sent to hell. You're going to be cast down, struck down by God. So I think that's very heavily suggested in that scene. When she gets home, her mother even says, like, when you showered with the girls, you probably had lust-filled thoughts about them.
That's
and
true.
So I'm like wondering if maybe Carrie had expressed earlier on in her life maybe that she was attracted to girls, and then her mom was like, oh my God. So
yeah.
I mean, that's always been my headcanon, but I know like a lot of other people have said that as well. And yeah, I don't know. I remember hearing someone say in the book, it was pretty much clear that she was masturbating in the shower scene.
I don't remember if in the shower scene, but I know there's a scene where she gets home after it all happens, where she's standing in the living room and she's pleasing herself.
So that's one. And I think it was, it depends on, like, I don't know if you go into the movie and would, like, necessarily see that right away, but to me, I think it's pretty open that...
I think so.
That's the suggestion, yeah.
And also, I mean, just the fact that there's something different about her, and she's an outcast, and there's all this religious guilt. I mean, you can read into it the ways that you want.
the classic tale once again about the monster, and
Yeah.
everyone get your pitchforks.
Yep.
Yeah, and then also just like the female hostility in that one as well just reminds me a lot of like when it's done with males, that repressed homosexuality when
I can
you have
see
like
that.
the male bullies who are so obsessed with like bullying another guy or something. I kind of get that vibe in Carrie as well. Like, why are these girls so obsessed with each other?
That's so true. And yeah, they started off in an erotic way with all of them like prancing around each other naked in the locker room. It's basically like we're on Sappho's island.
Yes. What was when Chris is supposed to be giving her boyfriend a blowjob and all she can talk about is Carrie? I mean, that's pretty
so
much
true. Oh my
that's
gosh.
pretty telling.
You're... Same thing with Sue, honestly. She's constantly talking about Carrie when she's with Tommy.
She's willing to give up her prom night, send her boyfriend to go take this other girl. She's like, give her the best night ever. Treat her like a princess, please. I would sacrifice all of my own happiness for this.
Oh my gosh. That's so real.
I've
of
always
Sue.
shipped Sue and Carrie.
I did put Psycho on my list just because of the cross-dressing element of it.
I mean, we talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre too. Which
Yes, same thing.
is both based on a real life case of a serial killer, which a lot of people find, especially Psycho, to be like a harmful representation of trans people because the villain of the movie is a person who's not right in the mind, and because they're not right in the mind, they dress as a woman and kill people, which I'm sure it's not something that the filmmakers at the time would have been like overly concerned about, like are we being sensitive enough? Like, I'm sure that wasn't in their heads, but I also don't think they were being intentionally hateful with it. Again, because it is based on a real case where that was what this person did, essentially. I don't think they made the movie to be like, we're gonna vilify all trans people and anyone who dresses outside the gender norm. That's just kind of like, that's just where society was at the time, and the story they were telling. And I think when you get into the sequels to Psycho, where it's kind of like a step-by-step Norman rebuilding his life and his sanity, essentially.
Yeah.
I think you get even more sympathetic with that. But yeah, I mean, it's still kind of like...
It's still treated as a mental illness.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, the image of a man in a dress with the wig and the knife. It's like, oh, God, you know.
It's
like
scary.
they use it as an easy little thing.
You could also see him as a drag queen horror icon. You could also look at it that way.
Yeah, you know, he's not technically the real life serial killer. It is a different story, so.
Silence of the Lambs is a little bit more harmful just because, I don't know, the way that they treat it is a little bit, and it's also in the 90s, so they knew more what they were talking about. That movie's great, but I do agree with people who are offended about the way that the Buffalo Bill was handled.
And again, that's based on the same serial killer, who person who would wear people's skin. And it's weird because obviously the story is about this messed up person who wants to be or like feel like a woman or be a woman or something by just wearing people's skin. And I feel like if you had somewhere else in the film a trans character or something who was normal and was just there, then it would be like a little less harmful. It would be more like the person isn't this way because he or she is trans. They're like this because they're messed up in the head. And you could display that by having a trans character in the film who's just a normal person. But obviously in the 90s,
Yeah, we weren't quite there yet. Shall we move to the 80s?
Yes, I have a few for the 80s.
I know that you do.
Let's start with the elephant in the room and talk about Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge.
Oh my gosh. This is a tragic love story of
really
great
is.
proportions.
Even at the time when it came out, it was pretty much openly, like, one of the most openly gay horror movies to ever be released. Which is crazy because I feel like when it comes to movies in general, but horror particularly, when there's an implication or just straight up openly relations of women with women, it's a little more not like accepted in the right way, but just more like people are willing to be like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then especially in horror, it's like, ooh, it's creepy and taboo and all of that. But when it's male on male, people are like, I don't want it anywhere, don't want to see it in any movie, don't care. So this movie was just like, no, you're gonna see it and you're gonna like it.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up too, where in the 80s and 90s, and even the 70s, I feel like you saw actually a lot of, like, women loving women relationships, but mostly because it was, like, hypersexualized, and it was for the male gaze. And nowadays, I feel like it's almost flipped, where you see, I feel like the most complex and the most number of popular gay films and TV shows that we have are between two men, and not as much between two women. I think we're getting there a little bit now, but it's just a lot more common. And I feel like, here's my explanation, is because now that we're on this road to, like, showing people stories, of course the first people that we're going to show the stories of is white men. So white gay men, of course, we're gonna start with them, and then we go on.
Let's start there. We'll start easy.
So eventually, I hope we get to a place where everyone. I mean, I feel like non-binary main characters are very rare to come by at the moment, even transgender main characters. So it's gonna take us some time. But I think hopefully we're on the right track. I feel like we are. But I guess we'll get to that later once we get to the modern films.
Yes. Well, and that's another interesting thing that I forgot to bring up, but I feel like a lot of Italian giallo films in the 70s, there was always a relationship between two women. And it would seem at first that it was just to be like, ooh, the men want to see this, but I feel like there was a good number where genuinely it was just two women just chilling, and they were together, and everyone was like, yeah. And that was just kind of bizarre to me, because I didn't expect that in, like, 1970s low-budget horror movies.
Yeah.
But as I found throughout my life, that's actually, in the low-budget horror realm, is where you will get some of the most sympathetic representations of people.
Okay,
so that was very interesting. Yeah.
That makes sense, though, because it's the most, like, taboo underground genre, horror and low budget.
Yeah. And yeah, it would just be like, I mean, I can't remember, was it Torso or one of those slasher movies? It was like two women in a theater group or something. And when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, like, I wasn't too surprised, because there's always going to be, like, a scene of two naked women kissing at some point. But no, they were two regular characters just like everyone else, and they just happened to be in a relationship, and I was like, wow, that's kind of nice. You don't even see that in a lot of today's movies. Just done so, like, not, like, talked about and, like, ooh, it's just like, no, they're together, and everyone, all their friends knew, everyone in the movie knew, and let's move on and kill people. You know?
Let's get to the kills.
So with Freddy's Revenge, the entire story is very clearly a representation of the main character's repressed homosexuality, with many openly gay characters, including his gym teacher that he meets at a gay bar a straight up gay bar, a leather bar. And a lot of people, when it came out, did not like it, and even long after didn't like it, but I feel like recently a lot of people are, no pun intended, coming out and accepting and celebrating this movie and being like, you know what? It was pretty good. And we were wrong at the time.
I like it.
Because
Yeah.
it's a great story. I mean, like, it's not... At first, people were saying, like, it's way too obvious with its message that's trying to say, where Freddy's, like, the fear of accepting yourself, accepting your beautiful gay self. But, I mean, even if just looking beyond that with how terrifying Freddy is in this movie, just... himself, like, it's some of the best Freddy content in the franchise, I think. And just some of the most, like, the scariest he's been in a lot of moments, and I think that says a lot given what the undertone of the film is, because it is a very terrifying thing to have something inside you that you're so afraid of and you feel like is gonna harm everyone around you and ruin everyone's lives and destroy yourself, essentially. Now, I don't really know what to think. Having said that, I don't know what to think about the ending, where it's a woman who has to go and save him from this monster. I don't really know what that's trying to say.
It must have been an editor, like a producer's note. Or a studio note.
Yeah. When Jesse, the main character, gets fully possessed by the Freddy demon, and Freddy demon goes crazy, just... I mean, this is this the only movie where he actually achieves what he's trying to achieve and comes into the real world with his powers? Like, that's kind of insane. Like I said, Freddy's, like, at his most intimidating here. He finally, through Jesse, is able to not only go into the real world, but, like, have his dream powers there so he can, like, mess everyone up, basically, and brutally murder the boy that Jesse was crushing on, as we all know, Grady.
Grady.
So sad. But yeah, I think it's a really entertaining movie. I don't know. I like that all that stuff is in there. I think it makes it different and interesting.
It does. It definitely stands out in the franchise.
And again, the main character played by an openly gay actor. The actor has stated, like, how much the story resonated with him as a young man at that time. I know he has this documentary that came out. I forget what it was called, like... Scream Queen or something, because he is one of the most famous male Scream Queens.
He is.
I really want to watch it, but
yeah, that sounds good.
I've always enjoyed it. Never understood why it got so much hate.
The first 3 movies in that franchise are gold. I love them.
They are. Having said that, coming in close second to the most openly queer horror movie ever made is Sleepaway Camp. 1983.
I had that on my list.
Yes. I mean, pretty much the reason why this movie became a staple and everyone who's a horror fan knows about it is because of the ending, which is one of the most shocking endings ever in any film, let alone horror, where... spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Sleepaway Camp, I don't know what you're doing listening to this, but you need to be watching that instead.
Yes. Now that's a great camp slasher with very charming characters, most of whom were actually played by children, and good kills.
And not necessarily even super gory kills, but the way they're filmed, the way what you know is happening... Like, you think back on that movie, you think it's super gory and violent, but then you watch it, you're like, I guess not really on screen, but, like, just... That movie needs to be studied. In every person who wants to make a horror movie, especially a slasher, needs to study that film and why it works so well. I don't even know if I know why it works so well, but somehow it does. Somehow it manages.
And the one of the lines from the movie is very viral now. Eat shit and live. I see that all the time on Instagram now. Like the clip from the movie.
Oh, thank God. That is my favorite line from my favorite character, Ricky, who has, like, next to Tao Su, the best comebacks to bullies. Yes. But yes, eat shit and die, Ricky. Eat shit and live, Bill.
Great.
If that is the best comeback, how no one had ever thought of that beforehand. Maybe they did, but that's the best comeback I've ever heard.
I love Ricky. He's one of my favorite characters in any horror movie ever.
He is. I mean, I could go on about Sleepaway Camp, but so the ending of the film, where the film is like a whodunit, who's killing all these people, and it's very heavily suggested that it's either Ricky or Angela. Angela being this young girl who's very quiet, doesn't talk to anyone, and is just bullied horrendously by pretty much everyone, child and adult, for some reason, because people are cruel, and maybe this is the Carrie universe, I don't know.
Stephen King.
But it is, yeah, Stephen King bullies. It's revealed at the end that Angela is the killer, but Angela is also not a girl. She is a boy named Peter, who we thought had died at the beginning, but has been forced to live as a girl by their psychotic aunt, who didn't want... She's like, I already have a son, so I need a daughter instead. So actually, you're going to be your dead sister, Angela, now.
Crazy.
The levels of messed up, like, we can't even get into it right now, but a lot of people look at this and they say, oh, it's a very insensitive representation of trans people, because the story is ultimately this person is pretending to be a gender they're not, and therefore that made them go crazy and kill people.
And also the reveal is, it's kind of used as shock value. The reveal of
the penis.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And with horror movies, you are gonna get that, the shock value. And I think, I mean, it's kind of like why people don't like gore, because you're like, well, it's not there to be a storytelling element, it's just there to make you go
but using a gender non-conforming body for that, I can see how people don't like it.
It would not happen today.
No.
No way it would happen today. And it very, like, yeah, it's a sign of the times where, like, that is what is meant to make you like, oh god, a penis on someone we thought was a girl. Again, I don't think, at least to me, when I watch it, I didn't see it as, again, someone trying to be intentionally hateful. It was just like, oh, this would be shocking to people, let's do that. And just because a lot of people didn't really know any better. Yeah. But as far as the story itself, to me, it's always been a very pro-trans story. That's just always how it struck me. It's not... It's a tale of just the pure pain and suffering you will put someone through if you force them to live and present as something that they're not. And a lot of people take that in, like, the opposite way. Yeah. Because they're like, yeah, you're if you act like not the gender you were born with, you're gonna go crazy. But I just, personally, I never saw it that way. I saw it as a very pro-trans story.
And especially because, once again, the trans character is, like, you root for her in the end.
And she actually does, in the sequels, end up becoming a trans woman. So I think
and then much... she's literally just a horror icon. She's going around being a cool serial killer.
Well, and I mean, you can also look at the fact that once you see in this whole movie, she's, like, not happy, obviously, and that's, like, because of her past trauma and the trauma that her aunt's putting her through. But in the sequels, once she gets that gender-affirming surgery, she's the happiest gal on the block. Is she still psycho? Yes. Aren't we all a little psycho? Probably.
Yeah. Being trans doesn't have anything to do with it. She's just psycho.
Yeah. Who did she kill? And who did she kill? Did she kill people who were assholes and we kind of wanted to see die?
Well, yes.
So Angela is a trans icon in my eyes. She's one of my absolute favorite characters in horror. One of my favorite villains. I think, as far as I know, like the only openly trans female slasher villain. Also, female slasher villain. Not very common.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I love her. And I love that movie. And I think it's a classic tale of just, like, you will mess someone up if you put all of that on them. If you're forcing them to be something that they feel in their heart they are not. And you will reap the consequences, essentially.
Yup.
Yeah. The only other 80s one I had on here was Hellraiser, which is a very openly sexual movie. And I think because the BDSM scene is, like, very interlinked with, like, queer people and just basically sexual freedom in all ways. So I think just the Hellraiser movies having that, I was going to say undertone, but no, it's just full on the tone.
the plot. the plot.
The plot, S&M and all of that being the plot, it lends itself to being very much queer-coded. And when you look at, like, the Cenobites themselves, who I think in the book it openly states that they don't have, or at least Pinhead doesn't have a gender, and is, I guess, essentially a non-binary character. They're very, like, it's just that the way they dress, they're kind of genderless, you know? I mean, we all think of Pinhead as a guy, but I think just the Cenobites in general, they're just these...
They're like gods. God doesn't have a gender, basically.
They're gods of sadomasochism, you know? And now, it is the classic poor representation of S&M being that, like, if you're into that, you're basically a devil worshiper and you're psychotic and you want to harm people, which is not the truth. But looking beyond all of that, because everyone knows that when you think of the Hellraiser movies, you don't think of, like, the individual main characters of those movies. You think of Pinhead and the Cenobites as the main characters and essentially the heroes. So in a way, it's like a positive representation. Like, those are the people we all want to see. We want to see what they're up to, what they're into.
It's the same thing with, like, how Disney villains were always queer-coded in, like, especially the 90s, but even before then. Like, I'm there to hear Scar sing Be Prepared. I'm not really there for anything else.
Maleficent.
Yes. I'm there to see
Maleficent
in her creepy tower. I'm not there for anything else.
Maybe Prince Philip, but...
Maybe Prince Philip, yeah.
No, who am I kidding? I'm there for everything in Sleeping Beauty.
I'm there for the colors. All the colors in the movie are amazing.
Yes. But yeah, Hellraiser. You know, I think Hellraiser is pretty much just about everyone's secret, kind of maybe not so vanilla sexual desire. And I think looking at it that way, like, Pinhead's message is, like, people pretend that they're like, oh, I don't want to open the box, I'm not into all of that. And he's like, you know what? You know you are. You're no better than me. We're all in this together. We're all messed up. And that's that. And
Join
I just
me.
I love him for that. Love that message.
Yeah. Well, I put a movie that I just watched today. I'm trying to watch as many vampire movies as I can because I love vampires. And I watched a movie today called The Hunger, which has David Bowie in it. So you know that's going to be good.
You know.
You know that it's going to be a little bit gay and it's going to be camp. David Bowie, gay camp. That's what it equals.
I'd love to go to gay camp.
with Counselor David Bowie. So basically, it's about these two companion vampires and this woman named Miriam and the man named John. And John has been turned by Miriam, and he's slowly getting older. What the heck? He's supposed to be a vampire. What the heck? Why is he getting older? And he's aging at a rapid rate because he's been alive for a very long time. I guess it's this curse that Miriam puts on all of the people that she turns. And it's happened to everyone in the past. She has a bunch of past lovers who have, like, crippled and died. Because, I don't know, maybe her blood is just nasty like that. But that's how it is. So eventually, she can't do anything for him. And all of her lovers, vampires in this universe don't actually ever die. They can, like, be in a state where, like, they basically are catatonic and can't move because they're basically dead, but they don't actually die, so they're, like, aware of the fact that they're rotting away and dying. And it's really creepy. But anyway, she can't do anything for poor old David Bowie. So he becomes a crippled old man and dies. And during this awfulness that's happening to him, they're both pursuing this doctor woman played by Susan Sarandon. Another like, key. If you see Susan Sarandon in the cast, you know it's going to be a little bit gay. She's studying blood and its effect on aging. And so they're like, maybe she can help us. Well, she can't really. But then Miriam is like, after David Bowie's out of the picture, she's like, you're a little sexy, Susan. And so they strike up a relationship. And I feel like it's definitely male gazy, their relationship. But at the end of the day, I feel like a remake of this movie would be really good in, like, with modern mindsets, because I feel like just the concept of bisexual vampire with a bunch of, like, scorned lovers who at the very end all of these corpses get up and attack her. It's like all of her exes that she scorned come up and attack and kill her. And it's like, this is amazing. And I loved Miriam. She was iconic for that. She just left a trail of broken hearts, and it did come to bite her, but she lived her best life to the very end. And so I had a lot of fun with it. I don't necessarily see it as, like, a great gay representation, but it was cool that they made a movie like that in the 80s, and I loved the concept, so it was fun. It was a fun watch. On to the 90s?
On to the 90s.
The 90s is where I finally have non-horror movies. Do you want to start with those or start with the horror movies?
I have one horror movie.
Okay.
That is The Craft, because, as we all know, witches means gay.
Witches means gay. Yup.
I mean, and that's pretty much all there is to say. Why that is, I think because witches, at their core, represent us ladies having our freedom to basically be what we want, do what we want, have the power we want. And that includes having strong relationships with fellow ladies instead of just always after those dang men. And I think The Craft it's interesting because I've said this before when we were reviewing Agatha All Along, but in a lot of witch stories where there's, like, a coven, you expect the story to be about, oh, they all come together and the power of female friendship and all that. But The Craft is more about finding, our main character, Sarah, finding her individual power and learning to stand on her own without anyone's help, which I very much appreciate a story like that. But there's very much between our circle of 4 girls, it's very much like this a bond, I guess, because they are brought together by nature, kind of, essentially, which is a very interesting symbolism. But with the character Nancy in particular, who is the villain of the story, you very much get this sense of rage and jealousy from her when Sarah starts to kind of come into her own a little bit and get her own power and find her own confidence, when before she was leaning on the girls a little bit to help her. And you get the sense that Nancy very much liked having that power over her. But why she gets so angry when Sarah starts to go off on her own, or when she's like falling in love with a popular guy at school. Why is that, do you wonder? I think it's because she kind of had a little bit of a crush on her as well.
That's very teenager relatable.
Yes, and that's what, it's such a teen story, like on top of all the witchy stuff. At the end of the day, it's like just the cattiness of teenage girls, which is really fun. But yeah, it's just like a classic story of just the jealous rage of not only losing the person that you care about or are attracted to, but also like losing the control over them, which is like the sign of the toxic relationship, you know. That, I mean, you could look at it as like, oh, they're saying, you know, lesbian relationships are toxic, but any relationship can be toxic, as we know. So
yes.
I think, I mean, and they show that her relationship with the jock guy, not good either. That does not end up going well. So I think it's very much like, again, I just love that it's a story about the main character finding her own power and her confidence, because yeah, she is able to break away from the toxicity of people like the jock character and then Nancy as well. It's not just like female friendships are bad, get away from them. It's like, no, anyone who treats you awful is bad, and stay away from them. Don't care if, even if at first they seem like your friend and that they care about you. No, anyone can turn at any time. So you need to make sure that your power, you have your own power to break away and take care of yourself, which I love that.
Speaking of toxic relationships, I put Interview with a Vampire down because I had to. They really knew what they were doing by casting two heartthrobs at the time, Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. As much as I don't like them, I understand the vision of casting them.
I understand the appeal, sort of.
Yeah, and we all know what Interview with the Vampire is about. I've explained it 1,000 times on here, but I just needed to mention it because I talked about vampires earlier being very much gay-coded. And I feel like Interview with the Vampire was it really took it a step further with and yes, they're in love as well. And we're going to show it. And we're going to show how awful it is to be a vampire when you're in love. Because, of course, there's obsession, there's the need to kill nightly, and and there you can baby trap even when you're a vampire. Now that that we didn't know
unfortunately.
Yep. Anyway, my other thing that I put for horror movies is Scream. Just because.
Oh, yes.
The two killers in Scream are married. They died together and they got married. That's my truth.
We all know that Billy and Stu were in love and that they started this entire thing because of their insane chemistry they felt with one another. A chemistry so strong that it turned to violence against others.
Oh, great movie. Great couple, in my opinion. Two non-horror movie picks that I have here. The 90s was great for great for gay comedies. Like campy comedies. Okay. We have The Birdcage, starring Robin Williams and Nathan, what is his name? Lane. I knew that, but I didn't want to say it. I was going to say Lange, and I was like, that's Jessica.
That's Jessica.
Okay, so anyway, The Birdcage, starring Robin Williams and Nathan Lane. Now, what a just a joyous comedy movie with really hilarious performances and hilarious gay characters. And it's like a family movie too. It's very wholesome. It's basically about their son. It's their son, right? Not their daughter. Yeah, it's their son.
Yeah.
Their son meets a woman, falls in love, and they want their parents to meet, but the girl's parents are very uppity and conservative, and the guy's parents are gay, so they're like, oh, this is gonna be so awkward. So one of them just decides to pretend to be a woman to try and make it less awkward, and of course it gets more awkward. And it's just a lovely romp and a riot. I love that movie. And then another one, probably one of my favorite movies of all time, is But I'm a Cheerleader. Now, this movie changed my life. It's so camp. It has RuPaul in it saying, "I too was once a gay." One of my favorite lines. It's just about a cheerleader who, her entire family is like, you obviously like women, and they like, she has posters of women everywhere. She thinks about women all the time. She hates her jock boyfriend, which, like, even if she was straight, I wouldn't hold that against her. And so they send her to a conversion therapy place, and it's just full of these wacky characters. It's obviously like a very serious topic, but they somehow treat it in this really fun way, and it has inspired everything I've ever written since I've seen it. I just love the vibes. It's very pastel. There's bright colors. There's a beautiful romance at the center of it, and the ending is chef's kiss. That's romance. Romance peaked there. And it's also, I just love how, like, girly the main character is too, because I feel like when you see, especially back then, gay women, it's like there's a very specific archetype that was shown, which, like, all power to them. They exist too. But it's nice to see, like, a girly gay girl. And there's lots of pink, and I love it. I'm obsessed. And it has a great soundtrack. I listen to the songs from that movie all the time.
Yeah, I definitely want to watch that. Well, Thelma and Louise is an obvious
Susan
one
Sarandon
as well. Yep.
I haven't seen Thelma and Louise. Can you believe it?
Oh, really?
I've never seen it.
Well, it's a classic tale about two ladies being like, oh, you know what? Men suck. Let's go on the run and be vigilantes, basically.
That's so real.
Yeah, classic, iconic gays. We all love it. Another one I want to talk about is a movie called Bound with Jennifer Tilly, and I forget the other actress who's in it. But very interesting movie for the time, where it's these two women who live in an apartment complex. One of them is her boyfriend is like this just loser criminal guy, but she falls in love with this like scruffy mechanic gal who's in the building, and they essentially decide, you know what, let's steal your boyfriend's money and run away together. And the way the film goes, you're just like, oh. And just the way, you know, that LGBT films go in general, you're like, this isn't gonna end well. But as you go along, you're like, it's like fun to see the gals, like, and their little plan that they come up with to try to get the money. And it seems like it's just not gonna go well as it goes on. But then at the end, they're like, oh, we got one over on them. And it actually ends with these two lovely lesbians taking that money from that deadbeat loser and driving off into the sunset to live happily ever after. Which, in a 90s, like, not action, but like crime thriller, was like, wow, I wasn't expecting a happy ending at all, but it's a very much a happy ending. I'm like, I love that. So I feel like that's a movie that's not talked about enough, but it's so good. I love it.
I still haven't seen that. I would really like to. We'll move on to the 2000s.
Bareback Mountain.
Yeah, Brokeback Mountain. It was one of the first movies I watched that was like, the gay story was like the central plot. And I remember being like, what the heck? Why does it have to be so sad? I walked away angry and depressed. I think there's a place for it because it's cowboys. It's an interesting... It's not something that you would... It's breaking stereotypes, you might say. And now we see cowboys as the gayest of them all. So, that might be because of Brokeback Mountain.
But once again, you had Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal, which were two pretty big names at the time.
Yep, so. Big name, heartthrob. boys.
Yep.
Men, I should say. Yeah, it's just really sad. I think that it did a lot at the time, and like it needs to be given its flowers, but it's definitely not one that I turn to because I don't want to go through that again. But David Harbour is in it. He's the third gay cowboy, as he likes to say.
A forgotten role.
Yeah. One of his best. He's in that one scene. I'll never forget him.
Oh.
I think I did watch it after I had watched Stranger Things, so I saw him and I was like, hey!
Hey, that looks like Randall.
Other than that, we have, that's 2010s. Jennifer's Body. Jesus Christ.
Oh, duh.
It was not in the right order. I apologize. So, Jennifer's Body. This is a movie that I really love, and I feel like I don't talk about it enough. It's basically about, I was about to say Megan Thee Stallion. That's not her name.
Oh my god.
Megan Fox.
Megan.
There's so many Megans in Hollywood right now. Okay, so it's Megan Fox, who is bisexual in real life, by the way. She plays a bisexual vampire who kills boys. I mean, what more do you want? And she has a little fling with her friend, and it's very much like, you know, when you have a very close female friendship in high school, and there might have been something more there. That's the vibe that we're going for in this movie, and I love it. And she's iconic, and she's bisexual, and I feel like I sound like Willem Dafoe. He's gay. He has a special.
He's gay.
Who, by the way, Willem Dafoe is in the Hunger for literally 3 seconds. He pops up out of nowhere, and I'm like, what? That's Willem Dafoe.
Wow, that actually makes sense.
She gets turned into a vampire. She gets basically like abducted by this gang, and like bad things happen to her. But then out of it, she becomes a vampire, and then she basically just gets revenge on not the guys in particular who did what they did, but basically all boys.
There's actually a movie that came out, I think, like a year after Jennifer's Body, which was, I feel like, very much a knockoff of it, but it was called All Cheerleaders Die, and it on the surface looks like just a direct-to-video, low-budget knockoff, but it's actually really, really good. It's about this young woman who joins the cheerleading team because she has this plan to get revenge on all the cheerleaders for something they did to her that I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen the movie. But so she goes and she's like, I'm going to pretend to be friends with all these ladies, and then I'm just going to stab them back. But she ends up forming a romantic relationship with one of the head cheerleaders because she finds like, oh, she really isn't like as bad as I thought. She's actually really nice, and they have this little romance together, which is so adorable. And then a reveal that comes later is that of course you get the jocks in the background, but they find that this main jock guy, who is like obviously so jealous of the two girls who are in a relationship together, find out that he did something very horrible to the main character, and so then like in the past, and then essentially all the cheerleaders come together like, oh, we'll help you get back at him. And it's so fun. It's such a good movie. I haven't seen it in a while, but yeah, All Cheerleaders Die. If you haven't seen it, I do recommend.
I will be checking that out. I think what I love about stories like this is it really shows the power of female rage.
Yes.
Like, watching movies like that is so cathartic because it's like, like you get to see it let out. And yes, they become the monster. And it's like, oh, scary, I'm not so pretty anymore. I'm not this object that you can look at and, oh, she's so nice. No, this is the real me. I'm crazy because you made me crazy. And I'm also bisexual, so that makes it even worse.
Yes. It's like the female rage of I Spit on Your Grave, the remake in particular. Just perfection. Perfection.
Yes.
Oh,
I love stuff like that.
we love to see it. Yes. Hence why like 60% of horror fans are female.
Yep. Oh, you know what? I was watching a clip of Trixie and Katya on their podcast, and they were like, Do you want to know why gay people love horror movies so much? Because we love to see straight people getting killed. I was like, well.
Yep.
In the 2010s, we get, here's one I'll start with. That's one that I feel like is a little lesser known. It's called Tangerine. It was filmed on an iPhone 5S, I think, an iPhone 5 something, which makes it like a lot more intimate, I feel like you're literally just following these characters around. It's almost like a documentary, and it's about trans sex workers, and it's just kind of like you're following a couple days in their life, or maybe even just a day, and it just shows like their relationship with each other. It shows like a realistic view of being a sex worker, where it's like the dangers of it, but also that they are human and they're people with feelings as well. And also the pimp in it is played by the guy who plays older Eddie in the It movies. It Chapter 2, I guess, is the one he's in, which was a jump scare for me. But yeah,
which is another queer movie.
Yes. Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. Richie and Eddie. Oh my gosh. Anyway, yeah, so I remember I watched that for I think I was taking like a comedy film class. It was my first semester of college. And I was like, yeah, I really enjoyed that movie. And it wasn't one that I would have probably noticed or stumbled upon. And it was cool that it had, I hadn't seen a lot of movies with trans main characters, regardless, what does it say? Let alone being sex workers. So it was a very good watch. I put freaky in here because of the scene with, so basically the main girl gets turned into Vince Vaughn, the big slasher killer of the movie. And that doesn't stop the romance between her and the main boy from developing. So we get this amazing scene of Vince Vaughn falling in love with the main boy. And I really appreciated that, because I was like, that's realistic. That would happen. And they weren't afraid to do that.
Yeah, that was nice. I think that was 2020, though.
Really? What else do I have this way? Oh, Call Me By Your Name. I feel like another one that... Here's what I have to say. Is... I can't pronounce his name. Luca Quadranero. Luca
Ben
something.
Quadranero?
That's how I always pronounce it in my head. I've never heard it pronounced out loud. I'm so sorry. He has directed a lot of stuff that I enjoy, like Challengers.
Oh.
Challengers, Queer, Call Me By Your Name, and there was a show that he directed too that I cannot remember the name of. But all of them, I've watched them all, and all of them have this very, intimate quality that I really enjoy. Just because of everything, like the lighting, the cinematography, the acting, and I feel like they have really good intimacy coordinators on all of them. Mm. And so I appreciate them for that, but I'll say that a lot of his stories are very depressing. And so Call Me By Your Name is another one. That one's not only depressing, but it's a problematic age gap relationship, which I don't think it's romanticized, in my opinion. I'd have to watch it again, but it is just it's a story that I wouldn't want to come back to a lot, much like Brokeback Mountain. But again, it did a lot for the queer film genre, so I have to give it its flowers.
I have Black Swan.
Oh yeah.
Which is one of my favorite movies of all time. Lesbian ballerinas,
Yep. What more do you say?
But, yeah. Very much, the entire story, if you think about it, it's kind of similar to Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. Because, essentially, the main character is so afraid of finding this darkness within her. Mm-hmm. This evil that she feels growing. And as she feels this darker side of her start to come forth, she finds that she is attracted to one of the other women at her ballet company, and has fantasies about acting on that attraction. And it's, with the, visually the symbolism, where she finally lets her hair down. She wears a kind of revealing dark black outfit. She has, the black on her eyes. Very much her relationship with this woman, who's kind of very much portrayed as a flirtatious, kind of wild gal. Very much is like the dark part of her, the black swan side of her that's just wild and uncontrolled. Meanwhile, her attraction to her ballet teacher, who is a male, is very much seen as like her pure, innocent side, her white swan side. And I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing, because the black swan, her becoming the black swan at the end of the movie is very much a triumphant moment of like, yes, I have finally become this wild, uncontrollable creature, and it's very much like a celebratory thing. It's not something that's like, oh, at least to me, maybe it is some people, but to me it wasn't like, oh no, she became evil. It's like, ooh, yay, finally. It's kind of, it reminds me of The Witch, at the ending of The Witch, which it's like, okay, yeah, in theory it's bad because, like, kind of harming people, but in the symbolism side of it, of just gaining your sexual freedom and your autonomy, I guess, is very much like an empowering moment, and how she is like, you know what, and it resonates with me as well, because I am a very feminine person, and I love my pretty sparkly dresses and everything, but at the same time, I love the dark goth emo stuff as well, and like, you can have both.
You can have your cake
both.
and eat it too.
Yes. So, love Black Swan. It's
That's
such a great movie.
film.
My only other one that I had was the movie Handsome Devil, with our good friend Nicholas Galitzine playing a gay rugby player. Not Nick Nelson, a different gay rugby player.
They're
But
everywhere.
It's a movie that is primarily about queer friendship, because there is a gay boy at this all-boys school, and of course, you know, all the guys make fun of him and whatever, but come to find that a new boy at school who joins the rugby team and is kind of like a bit closed off. He doesn't talk much. People are saying like, oh, he got in trouble at his other school, he did something. Come to find that he is gay as well, and he and this boy form a friendship and kind of shelter with each other away from all the craziness. But then, of course, there's all the peer pressure from the fellow rugby lads. So it's one of those stories where, like, the one friend is acting like someone else when he's around the others and acts like he doesn't like him, even to the point where he straight up bullies him with the other rugby players, which is, like, very frustrating. But overall, just, like, I thought it was going to be a romance when I first watched, but it's actually, there's no romance at all. It's just kind of about the friendship of these two boys. So it's like, you kind of forget about the representation that you need there too, about just friendships as well, outside of romantic relationships, because, you know, queer people need each other. They need people to lean on and people to just be themselves around. So that was very nice, even though I always prefer a romance just because I love the romance, but the friendship was very cute. Early performance from Mr. Nicholas Galitzine, which is very, very good. He looks 12 in it, but...
Who will be mentioned 2 more times?
Yes, you will. Yes, you will. We could even mention him more.
Let's move on to the 2020s. You can, actually. That's
You
true.
can mention him, like, many times.
Yeah, almost all of his roles.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with Fear Street really quickly. Fear Street trilogy, not my favorite, but Fear Street 1666, that is the romance of the century right there. She literally cursed the entire town because she was blamed for cursing the entire town. Only because she was in a loving relationship with another woman. And that caused the chain reaction of events of the entire goings-on of the trilogy. And I thought it was a perfect way to wrap up the trilogy, and I loved their relationship in that one. And it was lesbians just doing their thing. Let's go lesbians. And that's all I'll say about that. My other thing, I already mentioned Freaky. Jumped the gun on that one. Another depressing one, I really liked it though, was All of Us Strangers. You watched this with me, Emily.
I did.
You probably did not like it.
Yeah. Oh God, that was really dark.
I don't think I'd ever watch it again, but I did like this one more than the other depressing ones I mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, it was still good.
Because, I don't know, just the way that it was, like, that they dealt with grief and his connection to the other guy. Like, he was like a medium almost. He connected to ghosts. And just the empathy that he had to be able to sort of comfort this ghost was, I don't know, it was really beautiful. I found his character really endearing, and that whole story was really sad and endearing to me. Let's talk about the big ones, though. Let me start. My favorite movie of 2023, Bottoms.
Yes!
The spirit of But I'm a Cheerleader was reincarnated in this movie. It was lesbians being absolute dorks with actually really good romance plots too, and great comedy and gore at the end.
Yes.
Not to mention a hilarious performance by Nicholas Galitzine. Yes, he's back, folks. And this is not the last time you'll be hearing of him.
Not at all.
I love how, like, off the walls this movie gets, while also being so grounded because the characters are very relatable.
Yes.
And yeah, this one I will go back and watch all the time. I love this movie.
Yep, it's a classic of our time. I also like how the characters in that movie, they, like, obviously they're over the top because it's a comedy, but they're like real characters. Like, they're people and they have flaws and they mess up a lot, but then they're also there for each other in the end.
Yes.
And there's another movie about queer friendship.
Yeah, the two main characters, it's a friendship between them.
Which is refreshing.
Which I love.
Yes. The 2020s. Where do I start? Where do I start with everything I'm currently obsessed with? Well, I guess if we're on the Nicholas Galitzine train, we don't want to ever get off, so we'll keep going there. And now is the time to talk about Red, White, and Royal Blue. And
we've finally arrived.
I don't even know what more I can say about this story. Why I connected with it so much, I really don't know. I think a lot of it is because of when I first heard of it, I was expecting it to just not end well. I think when I heard, not only is it two men, but it's a British prince and the son of a US president, that sounds like it's, like, not gonna end well. But I saw the book at the store and I'm like, oh, but it has the same cover of, like, all my fluffy, fun, happy ending romance books. So I'm like, is it gonna be happy? And so I bought it because it looked cute and the cover was pink and really pretty, and I was like, okay, well, I'll give it a try. And oh my god, this book just had me in a chokehold from page 1, and I'm like, I'm like, I think I'm gonna be obsessed with these characters. What is happening right now? And then, sure enough, the book was over, and I'm like, I don't want it to be over, and I would like to watch the movie right now, please. And I did right away, and I was like, oh, wow. There is something that happened with this, and the exact same thing happened when I read Heartstopper and then watched the show after. All of a suddenly, I was 12 years old again in my little book world, reading, like, The Hunger Games and Twilight and being so excited, like, those books were so good, and now I'm gonna watch the movie, and, like, what's it gonna be like? How are they gonna do all my favorite scenes? What are my favorite characters gonna look like? I have not felt that excitement since then. Since Twilight, probably. With Red, White, and Royal Blue, I felt it again, and I'm like, I forgot how exciting this feeling was when you read a book and are so, like, I'm obsessed with this, and I get to watch the movie next. Oh my god. And it's just, I don't know, it's hard to explain what the feeling is, but it's really amazing. And that happened with this. Read stuff like this, like The Love Hypothesis, like Red, White, and Royal Blue, where it's just a pure fantasy, and it's so amazing and so warming, and what you
Heartwarming.
and what you need just right now in your life that you didn't even know. And yeah, this movie just changed my life. I think the casting is like one of the most perfect things I've ever seen in my life, and I just the pure joy and happiness. There's hardly a moment of like real bad despair. There's the low point of the story, obviously, and for the characters, and they're still very complex characters with a lot of flaws and a lot of, you know, stuff in their history that they're still trying to get over. But, I mean, as someone pointed out, talking about this movie, like, wow, it's a movie about queer people where no one gets beat up, no one gets called the F slur, and it's just people being people and being happy. And I was like, yeah, why is that such a rare thing with queer movies?
It truly is.
And I just love it. I'll watch it a million times. I'll read it a million times. And the sequel better come fast, because I'm dying over here. I read fan fictions like every single day. I love these characters so much. I don't know how I just clicked so well with all of this, but I did, and I'm so happy.
I feel like by the 2020s, we've finally gotten... I mean, we were tired a long time ago, but we've finally been heard about being tired of the kill your gays trope. And now it's like, you will make the internet angry if you kill off a gay character or kill off their love interest or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so now we're getting a bunch of happy stories with good endings. And thank you.
Yes. And after having sat here and talked about all these movies, I do realize that there are a lot of actually queer movies with happy endings. But I think there's just not a lot that it's just like a romantic comedy, and it's just a sweet story.
Yeah. That
just happens to be about queer people.
Now we got Heartstopper.
God, also, where do I begin? Again, I don't know what... As soon as I started reading the books, I'm like, I needed this so badly, and I didn't know it. But I have it now, and now I am obsessed. And yes, the show, again, I don't know, the casting, I don't know how they got it so perfect, but they did, for everyone. And it's amazing. And it's just about, when you watch that show, you just get that feeling of everything is going to be okay. And just be happy, and be with your loved ones, and just be yourself, and just have fun, be in love. And, I think we all need that message right now.
Yeah, it's very important to have right now. And that is why the movie better come out quick.
Yes.
Quick. Hurry up.
Hurry with that. Please. And now, speaking of this, we've had somewhat of a trend in TV shows as of late, which I've been loving, with basically everyone is queer. Everyone. Pretty much every character. We have that with Heartstopper. We have that with Agatha All Along. We have it with Interview with the Vampire. And I love that. Mm-hmm. I love that for us as a society.
Every character is bisexual. I think Louis is the only gay character in Interview with the Vampire. Everyone else is bisexual.
Yeah. It's just nice, because I think we, as a society right now, we're definitely a lot better than we were at recognizing people, but we still have a long way to go. And I think having media like this constantly, where, we focus on just a majority of queer people, will just help those who are a little slower on the uptake to be like, yeah, it's normal. It's just people. who are here.
Yep.
And
queer people exist. And that should be celebrated because it hasn't been easy to exist for many decades. And it still isn't easy now.
Yeah.
But with the help of a few good movies and TV shows, hopefully everything can change.
It could make it that much better, you know? I mean, if you have someone... I mean, I know for me, as a queer woman, I love having just something to be like, yo, other people too, you know? And not only are those other people, do they exist, but you can have a good life and a good time and kind of just live like everyone else.
And a normal life.
Like, I always think what makes Heartstopper work so well is it's not solely focused on what makes it difficult being queer, but it's just also about the hardships of being a teenager and a young person, which is universal.
More gay to come.
More gay to come. With Nicholas Galitzine, who is gay in, like, everything.
Yeah. I'd love to see Nicholas Galitzine in an Interview with the Vampire.
Dude.
That would be kind of crazy.
I mean, we talk about him in The Craft Legacy, the sequel to The Craft.
Yeah.
Where,
he's already been in horror.
Yeah. The famous scene where he's, like, the horrible, cringy writing of him coming out as bi to this circle of girls where he's like, it's not that I'm gay. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with being gay, though, but I'm bi. Like, okay. Okay.
My gosh.
Oh, that movie is horrid, but he's really good in it, as always, as woke Timmy.
And it is in the zeitgeist of queer horror, or queer films.
Yes.
So it has to be mentioned.
There are queer people in it. Not well written, not well portrayed, but they're there.
Also, everyone watch The Newsreader if you are in Australia. Or if you're not, you can get a VPN and go on BBC iPlayer. I've done it. It's a great show about Australian news anchors in the 80s, and it has a bisexual main character played by the one, the only Lestat himself. And it's a wonderful show. Except the third season is really sad.
Oh, well, dang. That kills the whole thing I was just talking about.
I know.
If you're looking for evil gays, you can watch Mary and George, starring Julianne Moore.
And?
You thought I was going to say someone else. else.
I bet you can fill in the blanks yourselves, folks.
I know that we like the positive, happy stories as well, and the good representations, but sometimes we just want to see evil gays. Hence why Mary and George and Agatha All Along are also fantastic shows to watch.
Please do it.
Also, Terrifier!
Art!
Art the Clown! He's so
an icon.
I love him. Mm-hmm. He better be on RuPaul's Drag Race as a guest star.
That would be
Can you imagine him as a guest judge?
That would be amazing. That would be hilarious.
Oh, dude. Yeah, he's the best.
I've been saying, for the press run for Season 3 of Interview with the Vampire, they should have the rock star Lestat on Drag Race. He would be amazing as a judge.
Yes. Oh, he'd be so catty.
He would.
Anyway, 2 hours later.
We've covered every single film. No, we've missed a lot. I haven't seen a lot, I have to say. Yeah. I would love to see more. I would love to educate myself further. But
we haven't even seen Young Royals.
No, we haven't. I would love to see that. There's a lot that I'd like to see. I still haven't watched. I've watched the beginning of I Saw the TV Glow, and I wasn't able to finish it.
Oh, yeah.
But I'd love to watch that. There's a lot to be had. But we covered some of our standouts, some of our favorites, and we hope y'all like these ones too, or if you haven't heard of them, you watch them and you like them as well. And this was a fun conversation. I love talking about movies. That's why we just want to talk about movies.
Happy Pride Month. Because it is Pride Month.
It's not Pride Month for me yet.
Happy Pride.
But it will be soon. What have we been watching? I did just watch Love Lies Bleeding, which is another queer film with Kristen Stewart. I love Kristen Stewart. I don't know what that was. But it was definitely heavily inspired by Thelma and Louise. Her name is literally Louise, Kristen Stewart's character. I liked it. It was a little out there for me, but I feel like if I let it sit, I'll come around to it. But it was fun, like the whole like we're in love and we're murdering people and we need to cover up the murder. That was really fun. It was a fun ride. And I also watched Practical Magic, which is a 90s witchy movie. Can we talk about Nicole Kidman, though? She's gorgeous in that movie. Anyway, I thought it was fun. I was expecting it to be really bad, but I was like, it's not that bad. It wasn't great, but it was fun.
That was me with Catherine Hahn and Agatha all along. Like, I've never been attracted to her before, I don't think, but that whole show, I was like, huh. Wow.
And Aubrey Plaza and everything she's ever been in, for me as well.
Oh, yeah, Aubrey Plaza I've had a crush on for a while. I watched Hell of a Summer last night.
You did? What did you think?
Pretty much the same that you thought.
Yeah.
I think it's weird because the comedy and, like, likability of characters and everything is a lot of the times the hardest thing to get right in slasher movies, especially nowadays. But somehow they pulled it off, and just the writing and the casting and everything, I'm like, oh, it's like really charming and everyone's very likable and fun to watch. The thing that should be the easiest to get right is the kills. And somehow they dropped the ball, like, entirely.
I feel like they didn't even really want to. They were like, and it's kind of a horror movie, too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Because most of it reads like a PG-13 slasher. But then, it's rated R because of the language, I guess. And then they do have, like, 2 or 3 kills that are quite gory. So I'm wondering, I think it was just a budget thing. They couldn't afford to do that many kills, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, you almost made it, but you just kind of, And I have to assume it's from the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, because I think that's most people, what they said about this, like, yeah, it's really funny and likable, but one of the main things we go to, especially for camp slashers, is the kills. And it reminded me a lot of the movie April Fool's Day from 1986, I think it was. That movie... it's an extremely old movie, but a spoiler, I guess. None of the kills are real in that, because the whole thing is, oh, April Fools, there was never a killer. So you don't get the gory satisfaction in that one. But what makes it a good movie is the characters are so likable and fun to watch on screen. So it reminded me a lot of that. But this movie doesn't have that excuse of, well, it wasn't real the whole time. It was just, no, we didn't have the budget to show you the kills.
It kind of does at the beginning, because, spoilers, the first couple of kills are fake. Because the killers faked their own deaths and such.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, for me, that was kind of more disappointing. Because I was like, so, the one kill that we saw with all the blood wasn't even real.
Yeah. And of course the twist again is yet another Scream knockoff. And I'm like, so you guys, we need to stop remaking Scream.
I know it's
really
good.
Getting old. Not every slasher movie has to be Scream. And it always ends, the twist, there's multiple killers. The killers are part of the friend group. They want to do it because they want to be famous. It's like, I'm really not digging that anymore. And I think especially if you want to make like a love letter to camp slashers, have it just be, it's just a guy, it's a legend of this crazy killer. He's come back years, like, go back to basics.
Yeah.
They were so close. The looks of the killers were pretty good. Even.
Yeah.
And that's kind of hard to get right a lot of the time. But I just think we need to go back to that basic storytelling when it comes to slashers, especially the camp slasher. They even had, like, there were moments where they had the synth music and everything while someone's being chased. I'm like, you see? That's good. So, yeah, I think it was, like, 50%, like, you almost made it.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff that a lot of slashers usually drop the ball on. They did not, which was impressive, but
A lot of the core things.
the easy stuff they got
Yeah.
wrong.
That's why I'm like, it's just a comedy. It's not even a horror movie. If you go into it expecting a comedy, then you'll have a great time. If you go into it expecting a horror comedy, you won't have as good of a time.
Yeah, I definitely going in knowing, like, I feel like I would probably have been a bit, not angry, but just like, what the heck, if I didn't know beforehand that there wasn't going to be a lot of gore, because it says it's rated R.
Yeah.
And it markets itself as a camp slasher, so I probably would have been a little peeved, but since I knew beforehand, it was just kind of like, okay, let's just see what they can do, you know? And yeah, like you said, hopefully, because everyone's criticism is pretty much the same, so hopefully moving forward, maybe they'll get a bigger budget or something.
Or they might just focus on making comedies and not do horror, which I'd be fine with as well.
Yeah, possibly.
But my favorite part was when Finn Wolfhard's character got everyone waters, and they were all running away, and he's like running after them with the tray, like, I got waters! I was dying.
In that moment, he was the guy from Monsters, Inc. He's like, I've got more snow cones.
Yeah, I was dying. And then when he dumps it out sassily, I was...
Fine, be dehydrated.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Why was he in a bathrobe for so long?
I don't know, but I loved it. I was obsessed.
I was like, when did he get a random bathrobe? And then it was gone. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
the comedy was good.
He was very funny. Everyone was really funny. The jokes were hidden. So I had a fun time.
Really fun to watch.
Yeah.
It moved very fast. That's another thing that a lot of modern horror movies struggle with.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it was decent.
Mm-hmm. Good for a first time directing a movie ever and writing a movie.
Yeah.
At such a young age too. I was impressed.
That's why I'm thinking they just must have not had money to do kills.
Which I'm surprised.
I think.
Finn Wolfhard, where's your Stranger Things money going? Let me ask that. Let me see the audit.
Don't tell the tax man.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Why do you think he shaved his head? He had to sell his hair.
Oh no. It's because the freaking Stranger Things seasons take 10 years to come out, so they all run out of money before the next one comes.
I heard now someone's saying they're gonna push it till next year.
I don't know. So apparently, I guess this is news too, but I haven't been saying it because I'm kind of mad. Apparently, we're supposed to get some sort of teaser on the 31st of May, which will have already happened, so you watching this will know what the heck that was. But they keep teasing the teaser, and I'm like, just give us something. Stop playing around. I'm getting tired of this. And if it's supposed to come out this year, then I hope that a trailer's coming soon, because we're almost halfway through the year, and usually the trailers come out like 4 or 5 months in advance, so I don't know. They could very well be pushing it back to 2026. But anyway, I'm not going to linger on that. Because today we're talking about the gays. And being gay means being happy. Yeah. As Jenna Ortega says, gay also means happy.
Yes. Yeah, the only other thing I watched was Warfare, and I don't want to talk about that.
Oh, God. Joseph
I don't want to end the
I pray for your legs.
on that. I pray for your legs.
I pray for your legs.
There was no queer joy in that movie. So.
No, you see Kit Connor, you expect something happy with queer, but no happy with queer in this.
You expect something happy with queer.
Well, what can I say? That's the only thing. The only things I've seen him in is Heartstopper and Rocket Man. It makes me very excited for the Monk movie that the Monk zombie movie that Kit Connor and
yes.
Will Poulter are going to be in. I couldn't remember his name for a second.
Yeah, hopefully that'll have queer joy.
Yeah, right? Probably not if they're monks. They're zombies.
Our next episode is going to be our last one of season 3.
No.
Hopefully, Kayla's got a pretty grueling traveling schedule coming up, so I don't know if we're gonna be able to fit it in, but we'll see. We're meant to be reviewing Ballerina, which I'm so excited. I'm so looking forward to this. I'm a big fan of the John Wick movies, also a big fan of ballerinas. So it's pretty much right up my alley. Until then, make sure to follow us on all our social medias, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, to keep up with everything that's going on, especially if I need to make an emergency news announcement that our episode has been canceled like last time.
Hopefully not. Pray for us.
Pray for GarageBand work. Subscribe to our channel wherever you get your podcast. YouTube, Apple, Amazon, any of those, Spotify. And that's all for this episode.
And we will catch you on the flick side. Da-da-da-da-da-da.